Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the U Talk Show. Where, oh, okay, I don't know how to finish that. Damn it, I did it. I was going to say where you talk, but you don't talk. It's where utilitarians talk. Is where utilitarians. You get the thing. So, in news that isn't me,
No, we're going to
screwing things
start
up.
that again. We're going to start that again, and you're going to
No,
think
no,
about
no
your
do-overs.
action.
No do-overs. No, this is this might as well be live. No do-overs. So today we're discussing how can all of us hold powerful institutions and individuals to account for their actions. And before Horst gets into what I'm sure is going to be absolutely amazing and inspiring notions.
Vote, you dense motherfuckers!
Yes. Hey, let's not call our audience dense. After all, they're watching us. How can they be dense? They've actually taken the time to watch us.
They're listening to two people who have never held public office opine on how to fix the world. There's a certain density in that.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I've spent 8 years trying to figure out how to fix the world, though. So, that's like, and I've actually done active research on it, and I've studied economic history in doing that. Like, I know more about economic history than most people know about general economics. It's actually very interesting.
General economics is basically inscrutable, and everything after Keynes is screwed.
You mean Keynes?
Everything after Keynes, yeah.
You're pronouncing it Keynes. It's Keynes.
Milton Keynes.
The economist who, Keynesian economics.
Yes.
Yeah, isn't it Keynes, not Keynes?
I heard it Keynes, but I'm used to it from, British publications, so...
well, the British are like that sometimes. Fair.
Better.
All right. So yeah, basically, votes. That is one of the biggest, most effective. That's the word I'm looking for. That is one of the most effective ways that you can hold politicians, especially, to account, and the government as an institution to account, and research your voting options when you do. So let's take the recent New South Wales election. So at time of recording, the New South Wales election was about 15, 16 days ago. And I think it was almost a fifth of people did not vote. That's a lot.
I'm just going to quickly fact check that.
5%. Do fact check that. It might actually be worse than I'm thinking. Because I looked at it on election night. I happened to notice, the amount of votes versus the amount of registered voters, and a huge number just hadn't voted. So please, let's wait in anticipation as Horst gives us this number, and either shows that I have a shit memory, or shows just how much we neglect state politics, which state politics has, in terms of what they can do at their level of government, just as much power as federal politics. So we shouldn't be ignoring state government and state politics. So, Horst, I'm running out of things to say here. So where's that information?
I can't find that information in a prompt fashion, unfortunately. But
okay,
I wouldn't be surprised.
I do know where to find it myself.
Okay.
I'm just going to real quickly...
So while we have Kyle try and look this up, what I'm going to be dealing with is legal avenues for holding powerful individuals and entities to account, because there are legal tactics that have been overused, abused perhaps even, to ensure that the misdeeds of people and entities with positions of power go unnoticed, unreported, and in many cases unpunished. And that's what I'd like to address. But while we have Kyle looking for, and it looks like
here we go, I found
it. Display's just changed.
Yeah, I found the thing. Yes. So, okay. So we have enrollments to vote. We have just over 5.5 million, 5,521,688. And of the total formal votes, it was 4,768,460. So 86.4%. So not quite almost a fifth as I thought. But
So
just
13,
under
13%. 13% of people
13 and a
didn't
half.
rock up.
Yeah, so 13.5% of people did not bother voting. Now, you might expect reasonably 5% of people for various reasons, being out of state or, forgetting that there was an election. I mean, hell, people can be forgetful. I'm one of those really forgetful people. But 13%, I mean, that's more than enough to swing an election. The results in that election ended up being, so we actually covered this, but we need to recover it because it changed actually. Because it looks like the Labour Party of New South Wales, at the time we actually told everyone that they had a majority government, but that's actually changed. They're now in minority government, with 2 seats less than they need for a majority,
Labour's in
which I think is
minority?
actually really good because
Okay.
that means
It'll force them to
that
deal with
means that
crossbench.
yes, and we have a good crossbench. We have Helen Dalton, which I talked about,
I
and
believe
I
we've
will praise
already
her in the end.
worshipped. I believe we've
Yeah,
already worshipped Empress Dalton. Do
yes,
we want to get
and
back
hey,
onto
and then
accountability, though? Because
okay, yeah,
interestingly enough, this is a good
I'll
segue
post the
to
results
our
in
sponsor,
as an image.
crossbench senators holding the government responsible.
Yes, yes, this is actually this is very yeah. All right, so let's talk about that.
Okay, so
Take it away.
I'm going to look at the legal avenues in a few respects. First of all, I'm going to be using some British terminology and some Australian terminology here due to familiarity with both sets of legal systems and the interlocks between them. But I'm going to start with the Brits. The Brits frequently issue, with court rulings, anonymity orders or denotices. These orders are designed to prevent the media from reporting on the subject of an ongoing investigation or ongoing case in order to avoid biasing the court. However, more recently, they have been used as gag orders to prevent the media from talking about people who have already been found to be guilty of an offence. In the case of politicians and celebrities who have been accused of impropriety, in the large part, anonymity orders are issued in order to protect them from harassment and to allow them to have some semblance of normality. I can understand this. Shakira committing tax fraud, not something we actually need to know about. And that's not in the UK. I think that was in Brazil. But you may recall.
Brazil. Because she had a primary residence in
Shakira.
Spain
Yeah.
listed, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vaguely heard about.
But if we look more recently, Judge Peter Kidd in Victoria issued a similar order regarding Cardinal George Pell's conviction on charges of child molestation to suppress coverage by media companies operating in Australia of those charges. And in February 2019, just 3 months after that order was issued, the Director of Public Prosecutions in Victoria had reached out to approximately 50 Australian news media personalities to explain that they had breached the gag order. Now, certainly, while I can understand that these are serious charges and it would be unfair and prejudicial to make a public declaration before the full facts had been found, we must also consider in this case that Cardinal Pell was in a position of authority, trusted and beloved, and with a great amount of access to vulnerable people through his office. and thus his right to privacy must be balanced against the public's right to safety in this respect.
Very
But enough
interesting
about
point.
Cardinal Pell. He's quite deceased now, and hopefully, the people who his neglect most directly affected will likewise be able to find peace one day. There
For a
are
second there, that
causes.
might have been interpreted as you wishing people death. Just thought I should. you know,
Given the amount of
yeah.
suicides that there have been related to such matters, less death and more the cessation of psychological torment.
Yes, yes.
There are relatively frequently, as part of contracts, terms for non-disclosure. Terms for non-disclosure of out-of-court settlements, for instance. Let's say that I set a logger's private property on fire and they sue me for civil damages because the judge in the criminal case said that the bastard had it coming. Highly unlikely, but if I settle out of court, I may be subject to having that sealed, being unable to tell you what is exactly the financial cost of burning down someone's house. Problem is that we're seeing orders like this applied to court judgments more and more as well. Anonymity
And
orders,
secrecy is
confidentiality
almost
orders.
never good for democracy.
The Washington Post's tagline is "Democracy dies in darkness."
I mean, I wouldn't say the Washington Post is. It's kind of because isn't that Murdoch? Isn't that her?
No, I don't. No, I don't think so.
Post. Wait, the Washington Post or the.
It was a Washington
I'm
Post.
thinking of the new. Yeah, I'm thinking of the New York Post. Sorry, that
yes,
was
yes. Other things we see are trials that are held in camera, and we've seen that in relation largely to trials on charges of terrorism. Because, let's be entirely honest, most of the laws surrounding terrorism don't exactly pass the sniff test. And I really thought I was going to get away with not bringing up Draco the Athenian here. Cradle of democracy, Athens. And you have Draco, for whom we still have the word draconian. Draco proposed that for simple crimes, the stealing of a loaf of bread to feed a hungry infant, shall we say, that the punishment of death was appropriate to ensure that no one would dare to commit a crime.
You know what? This reminds me of something in China, because at one point they took on a very legalist philosophy, and for a general to be late to a meeting would bear the penalty of death. And so what ended up happening was a general was going to be late to a meeting due to unforeseen circumstances, not his fault. And so he then rebelled and overthrew the government and emperor, and then became emperor, if I remember correctly, because of such a thing. So
hero, if your boss is making unreasonable demands, overthrow them.
You heard it here first. Vive la communist revolution!
Liberté, égalité, fraternité! Seriously, though, we've gotten into the legal instruments by which people avoid justice. The solution is simple. No protection, no mercy. My father would say about certain classes of offender, hang the bastards. But quite frankly, that isn't called for either. On the determination of guilt, there should be no protection for offenders. Let people know what it is that they've done wrong. If you've been found guilty in court of, I don't know, having a slightly ludicrous amount of cannabis on your person, then that can be disclosed and you can take your chances. And the people who make these laws might soon learn that most people don't actually consider that a problem anymore.
Question.
If you've murdered your wife and kids,
Here's a
then
question though. A very good question very good question to put towards this situation.
okay.
Playing sort of devil's advocate here. What if the individual ends up being innocent? What if it was a miscarriage of justice and they've been labeled with that?
Then if they've been found to be innocent in a court of law or had a conviction overturned, it likewise should be the responsibility of every news outlet to report that as well.
Interesting.
Like this, here's the thing: this is a double-edged sword.
Should that be enshrined in law?
You have to call out
Do you think
every
that
time.
Do you think that should be enshrined in law? Like, say it should be enshrined in law that say there was a case where someone, a murder case, someone's convicted, and then 10 years later, it was found out that it was a miscarriage of justice, and that the evidence, they found basically evidence that proved without a doubt that the
Exonerating
guy was
evidence,
innocent. Yeah. Should it be legally the media's responsibility that if they reported on that case and reported on his finding of
Yes.
guilt, that
Yes,
they
it
should
should
then
be.
report?
The
Okay.
moment that they've
Because
reported on the
currently
guilt,
the media
they've
doesn't
picked
have a
up and
whole lot of
become
legal
personally
responsibilities.
invested. Yeah, the moment they've picked it up, they've become invested. And I mean, I think that journalists should always be responsible for finding the truth. And if that means that it comes out 10 years later that the poor bastard was innocent, then their responsibility is to publish that truth as well. That said,
maybe
there is a problem here. We're looking at the
idea.
right to be forgotten, though, which is a legal concept that's coming up a bit now. And that could be really interesting.
The right to be forgotten.
Yeah, the idea that you should have the right to have anything about you that's been written in your lifetime just...
Interesting. Because I was just gonna...
It's a bit of a stupid idea, but...
Well, I mean, look, some people would prefer that. Some people like anonymity, and other people like, other people would prefer for it to be sort of out there, for the history
except
of the
that half of the historic
records
that we have, half of the historic records that we actually have that have taught us things haven't been because someone like published a book or scratched something into a steel that was mounted to a public building.
Because of letters that people have written to each other.
It's been correspondence, diaries, and in the future, the same sort of thing will probably be the case for things like social media posts.
Wow, that's actually a good point.
A lot of the historical record stands to be compromised if such a silly notion takes off.
Yeah, we have less than a minute, by the way. Is there anything you'd like to... I have one last thing I'd like to sort of put forward, just as an idea.
Okay.
And maybe put it in the comments below what you think of this idea. But I imagine perhaps a day of recognition for the miscarriages of justice, where for the entire previous span of a year, they invite people who have had miscarriages of justice to essentially tell their story and to have the record corrected. And it's sort of a day where the media can focus on that. Essentially, them getting, in a very ceremonial kind of way, the recognition that, of something, of a miscarriage of justice, the wrong that was done to them. And
public holiday, sausage sizzle. People speak about miscarriages of justice. I could see that working.
What would we call that holiday? Because I actually like the idea of this. I think that it's not a nice holiday per se, but it feels like a necessary one, and one that we could all not enjoy, but engage with in a very productive way, and in a way that leaves us feeling more enlightened and whole in a way.
I've been reminded that there are two Jewish traditions for holidays, right? If you look at like all the holidays on the Jewish calendar, it's roughly a split between a shitload of us died, let's have some food, and yay, we lived, let's have some food. And I feel that holidays acknowledging acknowledging perversions of justice, miscarriages
Hmm.
of justice, injustices done that now must be corrected.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be a happy occasion to be worth
Like
carving a
Anzac
piece
Day, it's
out
a
from
day.
the
It's a
calendar.
day where we're mourning those who died, and in war, and also celebrating their, or I guess not celebrate, but recognizing their sacrifice. You know, and so we've run out of time. I think we might have just run over time.
Okay, so
So
public holiday to commemorate, memorialize, set the record straight on miscarriages of justice.
and have a sausage sizzle.
Yeah, that's the only way you get most Australians on board. Sausage sizzle. Maybe we can
Yeah,
even have some vegan snags for the weirdos who don't eat meat. Um,
I will refrain from
we
many
don't
statements.
overuse gag orders to conceal the details of the crimes of the powerful.
Yes,
And
and that's because democracy dies in the dark. When we're unable to learn about the misuse of power, then we are unable
to
to
make informed
correct.
decisions about the future. We are unable to
Yes,
vote
we are. Well, I
if
was
we
just
don't
about to
know that
say
the
we are
people we're
unable to
voting
correct
for
the
are crook.
course of democracy. We're unable
Yeah,
to correct the course of a nation if we are unable to understand the abuses and misuses of power. So with that, we'll end it. Thanks for watching. Share this around and comment down below. Take care.
take care all.